Okay, so in this video, we're going to be looking at arcade bezels. So that's the overlay that surrounds the playing area on given games. So in this case, because it's arcade, it's going to be MAME related. I'm using FBNeo, but this process will work with any libretro course, so MAME 2003 Plus and quite a few others. I think other emulators can use overlays and layouts, but it's a lot easier with RetroArch. So this is the process that I'll use in this example. So if we go into arcade, I'll put a sample set of games up so we can see what's what. Now, if you don't apply any overlay to a game or any shader and you don't change it at all from the defaults, it'll just load fine and be playable. And I'll show an example. So King of Fighters 98. So I'm just loading this without any tweaks at all. Just so we can see how it looks, a bit of a comparison. Like I say, I'm using FBNeo here, so that'd be what I'll show in the instructions of how to install this later as well, but you can use any one. Okay, so it's just firing up, obviously, a Neo Geo game. And there it is, sort of opens full screen. There's no effects or changes to the ratio of how it appears, no shaders or anything like that, but it's perfectly playable, so that's how it looks. I'll just give a quick bit of gameplay here, put a couple of credits in. There we go. So you can see, I mean, to my eyes, I don't think it looks great when it doesn't have a shader like this. The ratio is fine, but you can see there's black bars at the side because otherwise it would be stretched a bit weirdly. And yeah, it's perfectly playable, but it looks a little bit odd. Anyway, that's what it's like without any changes. So if we do it again with the changes on, if I just make a quick change to that file. Okay, so that should behave now. So if I open it up, this is with an arcade bezel, and all of the arcade bezels that I'm using here are from Orions Angel, and I'll put links to his YouTube channel and other areas in the description. There we go. So a couple of things going on here. We've got that great looking bezel that's taking up the area of the screen that would have a bit of black bars normally. And also in the main playing game area there, it's applied a shader, a curved, steadfast curved one. So you're not getting that sort of clean look, it's a bit more CRT like with the scan lines. I'll give this one a quick play now. I think so already on a, when you're playing this on a large TV or arcade machine or whatever your setup is, it just looks visually a lot better with this type of bezel. Orions Angel's done a stack load of these bezels and they're all really, really high quality. I think in this pack that I put together there's around 400-ish, but obviously more can be added. It's just a case of changing the configuration files, which I'll show in a bit. But you can see that the effect that has when it's got the bezel around in the shader, it's just a bit more authentic, I guess. It's a lot more what you might remember down the arcade. Anyway, a couple of things on that screen. You can see if I pause that a minute. Pause? There's no pause. Let's go back and fire another one up. I'll just go through a few of these so you can see how they look. And the first thing, obviously, when it fires up, you've got the bezel and the design of these ones, you can see it's been decided that it's not going to expand that playing area to the maximum area so you fill up the top and bottom of the screen. It's shrunk it down so you get a lot more of that original bezel showing. So you've got the title up there with those monsters, Sun Corporation of America, and below you've got more artwork as well. Now obviously you could omit that and the main area could be stretched instead and just have the bezel at the sides. But having it all around is that little bit more authentic. Now, obviously, that does mean that main playing area is smaller than usual. There's definitely a smaller playing area there. But that's the trade-off, I guess, of getting the better artwork. And then you've got to consider what device you're playing it on. A lot of people would be playing it on a TV, of which they're massive these days. So the fact that it's a smaller playing area, when you're playing it on a big TV, it's still really big. It's still fine, perfectly playable. And I've played quite a few of these games with these bezels now, and after a few minutes, you don't really notice you're playing on a smaller playing area. So yeah, it's a smaller area, but I think it's worth it given the extra artwork that's in play there. There's lots of other bezels out there as well that perhaps don't do the top and bottom, so you've got options to use different ones, but I think this works in the way that it surrounds the entire playing area with that. So that's Alien Syndrome. Let's see what else we've got, just to show you some examples. I'll put a link to the pack to download this and instructions of how to install in the description. If you've got any questions, let me know as well. Okay, so this is Armored Car. Again, you can see the area there is smaller because you've got that you've got all the imagery around it, top and bottom as well. I think a few years ago I've done another video similar to this one with some other what they're termed realistic arcade layouts, and that did maximize it, but then yeah, you lose a load of the original imagery around it. So bit of a trade-off there, but I think I'd opt for this, given the size of TVs that I usually play on. It's not a problem. Like I said, I'm just looking through the config files, and I can see there was about 400 that have been changed. In a minute, I'll swap over to the PC, and you can see the construction of those files and where to copy them across and how they work. But really, it's just a case of making sure that the paths are there for RetroPie, and making sure that they adhere to the ratios and the exact sort of playing areas to make sure that it fits in that gap. And I think for the next, I'll go through these, but obviously when you're watching this on YouTube, you might just want to fast forward, because what I'll do is, after I've shown you how they all look, where they all are, I'll go through the installation process. It took quite a bit longer than normal to get around to making this video and to get the config file set up, because you start doing it, testing it, and then you play the game for about half an hour. Oh, am I supposed to see? There we go. You can see when the game fires up in the bottom left that it references an override file, and that's what's setting all the settings. So each specific game has a file, so you can just turn it on and off for one game. If that file exists, the RetroArch should just pick up the changes, and if it doesn't see the file, it just load it as normal, like we saw on that King of Fighters 98 at the start. I guess if you've got a portable device that's playing RetroPie or a small screen, you might not want to go for this type of layout, because it sort of sacrifices quite a bit of the screen space, but it's good that the option's out there. And like I say, Orions Angel has got hundreds and hundreds of these images. Some of them are specifically for MAME, some for RetroArch, and others could be converted. Other images can be converted as long as you've got the right config file, so it's pretty easy to get them all out there. Okay, enough of that, enough of that. Next one. Apache. A lot of it as well, if you've got a clone game, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but if you've got a clone and not the parent ROM, you could just rename the config file to be the same as your clone, and as long as the resolution of that clone is the same as the parent, it'll work as well. So it's fairly quick and easy to fire up your own configs for this if you've got games that haven't got a specific config file for it yet. Warning, warning, warning. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so this is a vertical shooter, so the shader is the vertical version. It's still curved to give that barrel effect, but it's yeah, set to be vertical, so it just works a little bit better, or visually it's better than the standard horizontal one. Like I say, after I've started playing this for like 10 minutes or something, I don't really notice that your screen size is reduced. I guess it'd look really good in if you've got an actual arcade cabinet that you run this in, it's going to look particularly good, give it an authentic all-round look. Turn the lights down, add a bit of cigarette smoke, if you like, you're in the arcades. Right, okay. Let's do Don Pachi, next one. Final fight. So let's have the standard horizontal shader on this one. You can turn them off for individual games as well in the config files. That's just a 2-second job, but whatever your preference is, really. Also, that's what I'm thinking about actually. Orions Angel's got a load of console bezels as well, so it's not just the arcade ones he's got. I'll put a link to all of the details he's got, but there's plenty of images for you to check out and see if you want to apply any others, because for RetroArch it's all going to be the same principle, it's all the same type of data and the same type of config files, so it's easy to apply for whatever you want. I might take a look at those as well, because I could do with updating some other videos on that. Okay, so that's Final Fight. Stop playing it. Right, next one. Gallagher. Okay, so this is obviously it's a shooter. It's not really vertical as such. It just stays on that screen. So yeah, that'll have the standard shader on. Gallagher. Right, okay, Gang Wars. I tried this earlier today. I haven't played it in years. It's weird. It's one thing when you get new configurations to try with RetroPie, to try different things. You know, you play games to check them out, and then you end up playing games you never tried before. It's worth experimenting with some you haven't tried, because they're really quite interesting, some of them. Okay, Gang Wars. Here we go. This one lets you pick up a bit of pavement and chuck it at the heads. Oh, right. I should really be talking more about the bezels and the imagery, but it's good fun playing it. This one's particularly good. It's got loads of good images on. Oh, that was the pavement. What are they laughing? Laughing now. Yeah, this has got loads of good images around the side. Big, clear graphics. Definitely adds quite a lot to gameplay, rather than just having a black bar around the sides or anything else. This sort of layout works really well, I think. Hey, get off. Anyway, yeah, Gang Wars. Right, next one. Golden Axe. Always play the dwarf. Don't know about you. Looking at the graphics there, actually, obviously sometimes you get, gameplay info. Well, quite a lot of the time, probably. Stack load of magic for the Tyrus Flare there. And the dwarf, yeah, useless with that. I played this through to the first level boss a minute ago, and if you stack up, even with the dwarf on magic, you only need one hit after hitting them with magic, or 1 or 2 hits, and that's it, they're out. Anyway, right, yep, Golden Axe, next one. Gunbird, so that is a vertical sheeter, so the shader will have changed to this one. I won't play this, I'll just look at the bezel. There we go, yeah, it's pretty good graphics there. I'm trying to remember when I played these originally. I think I can remember some of the... I remember Iron Man Off-Road Racing, that had a good bezel. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Should try some of those. Anyway, yeah, so that's Gunbird. There's the bezel. There's not much point in showing the game. This isn't about the game, it's about the bezels. Next one, Metal Slug, okay. A lot of the Neo Geo ones here actually use kind of like a default Neo Geo cabinet, but I think Metal Slug and a few others have got the specific one where you've got the actual game artwork around the side. I think I prefer that, really, rather than the generic Neo Geo one. There we go. And it's got the instructions at the bottom, which are a bit difficult to see. Heavy machine gun, flame shot, shotgun, thunder guide, rocket launcher, laser gun, big shot.
Thank you. Super grenade. Thank you.
Anyway, I imagine a lot of you have already seen the posts that Orions Angel's put up, particularly on the RetroPie forums. It's got examples of all of the bezels. Like I say, there are hundreds. Let's give one last one a go then. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. By the way, it's about, well, it's way quicker to install this than it is watching this video. It'll take you about 2 minutes to install, so you'll be up and running really quickly.
Welcome to the world of Street Fighter 3. Yeah, I got nothing I expect.
I think it's got special moves down the bottom. I would have to squint a bit to see it, maybe. Okay, right, there we go. They are bezels and they look fantastic. So I will flip now to the PC and show you how to install this, where to download it and everything else. And the summary will be in the description anyway, so check it out there. Okay, over to the PC. Okay, so the file that you'll download will be like this. It might have May 22 at the end. Just stuck a date on in case I update it. But when you go into the folder, well, you get zip, unzip it. When you go into the folder, you get a couple of folders and a README file. The README file will basically go over what I'm talking about now, just to show you how to install it. These are the 2 folders that you need to care about. One's got the overlay, so the images and the config file for the images, and the other one's got the config file that RetroArch cares about. So if we go into config file first, we've got one config file for each of the games. So these file names will match and need to match the ROM set name, so basically the main naming convention. So if we pick one here, eSwap, I open that up and show the example. They'll all be following these principles. So first thing, you've got the playing area. So this one, the top 2 are saying the size of the playing area, and the bottom 2 give you the position of where the top left of the image should be. So make sure it fits into that bezel So that's the custom requirements there. Then it says bring in the overlay, and the overlay in this path is pointing to a config file, which I'll show in a minute, which points to the image. So this main config file points to that config file, which points to the image. So that's bringing in the overlay. Then down here, what we've got is it says make sure that RetroArch should listen to this custom config. 23 means custom, so it's saying you should look at the custom references here. And the fact that this CFG file exists means that because it's named the game name, it will run and apply for that game only. So it's like an override. If you've got any of these settings in another RetroArch config file, these will overwrite it, because for this game you want it. Okay, so the next one is just saying use a shader, and this is saying what shader to use. So we've got the standard curved ZFast one here, and for the vertical games, it will just say vertical. So that's what the config files are. All of these can go in a single directory, which I will show in a minute on the terminal view. So going back to that, that's all of these config files get copied to one directory, and all of the overlays get copied. Don't copy the RetroArch config folder, just the contents. And same for overlays. Don't copy the overlay folder, just the contents, so the arcade folder. And in the arcade folder, we've got our overlays, so you've got all the PNGs. So these are the actual images, and each one comes with a CFG file. So if we look at that eSWAT one, for example, eSWAT. So that original config file we saw a minute ago will point to this config file, and this one, all it does really is reference which image to load with a couple of other references and a reminder that it was made by Orions Angel there. Okay, and that's it. So this overlays folder, or rather the arcade folder in it, will go to the overlay folder in RetroArch. So if I open that README file, you can see here that the game config files, so those RetroArch ones, should go into this path here, which is RetroArch config FinalBurnedNeo. If that doesn't exist, you should create it and then put the files in. And then I've just got an example of a full file. So once you've copied it in, it would look like that. That's the full example. And then the other folder, the overlays one, you copy the arcade folder into this path here. So let's just bring that up in the terminal view so you can see what that is like. Okay, so the configs go into opt RetroPie configs or RetroArch config. So here we've got two folders, we've got FinalBurnedNeo and Remap. So if I go into FinalBurnedNeo and list what we've got all those config files. So that's where they go, in this directory here, opt RetroPie configs or RetroArch config FinalBurnedNeo. And you can do that in Windows and using that Samba share. So if I bring up this, and if you put RetroPie in, then you can just go to configs or RetroArch and config and then FinalBurnedNeo. So they're all in there. And the other one, I may as well do that in this view as well now. And the other one doesn't go in configs or RetroArch, doesn't go in config, it goes in overlay. And in overlay is where you just copy that arcade folder, and arcade's got all of those files. So that's why when a game loads, or rather when FinalBurnedNeo loads a game, it will check in this folder and say, have I got a config file for that game? If I have, I'll use it. If I haven't, I can't, so I won't. And that's it. So just copy them across, and you're ready to go. If you don't use FinalBurnedNeo and instead you use I don't know, main 2003 plus, then the same principle of work. You just create the name of that libretro core here, and then copy the same files in there. So it'll work with other ones. It's just that it won't work unless it's a RetroArch based emulator. Anyway, any questions? Put it in the comments. But hopefully you'll enjoy playing MAME games with some really high quality arcade bezels from Orions Angel. Thanks for watching.